I'm Annie Townend. I'm a leadership consultant, coach, and author. I work with senior leaders and their teams, helping them to be their best and to create an environment in which they feel safe and in which they can be in connection and work together much, much more collaboratively. I am also a passionate lover of the walk and talk and encourage people both in my coaching to walk and talk. At the moment, that's by people being on the phone and walking in their own location. But also when I work with teams, senior teams, as part of them building their relationships with each other, encourage them to get out and to walk and talk. Again, at the moment, that has to be in breakout rooms and in smaller meetings. But I love to combine the outside with the inside and the inside with the outside in my work.
Oh, wow. That sounds so interesting. Great. Yeah. So, Annie, anything that you would like to say about your Imago training? What was it like for you, or what stays with you from that?
A number of things stay with me. I was drawn to do Imago after having done at least one weekend with yourself, Sophie, with my partner. And it I found it extremely hard. You may remember most of the weekend I wanted to come home, but the approach really spoke to me, and the way in which you worked with Imago and the principles of Imago. And I think at the time I realized not only would it help myself and my partner, but it would also be a lovely thing to introduce to people I worked with. Time went by and I heard about the facilitator training, and a group of us who had participated in the Hoffman process, and some of us who had gone on to do the Hoffman training, were very drawn and could see great complementarity between the work we'd done on the Hoffman process and with Imago. And together we managed to persuade you to come to the UK, if you remember. And we did this by choosing the most beautiful location and one of the group having a large enough house available that we were all able to stay together in a residential home space, very safe, and to work together with you on the training and indeed the qualification. It was an incredibly rich experience for us as a group, but also each of us individually looking to use the facilitator training in a different way. Myself in the business world, others in their own communities.
Oh, it was a gorgeous location, wasn't it? Such a lovely place to be, and so kind of held in that space. Yeah, really wonderful. So, Annie, how are you using Imago since the training? How are you integrating it into your work? Can you say something about that?
It's a difficult question for me to answer because when I think about how do I use Imago, I realize that what has happened, it's become part of simply how I live and work, probably more part of how I work. So the Imago approach, and I always remember you're saying you can be right or you can be in relationship. And you maybe remember that. And one of my beliefs around leaders and organizations is conscious leadership, and that leadership happens inside of relationship. So the way I've integrated it is in, particularly at the beginning, very consciously applying the learning in my work. But over the years, and it's 6 years now, which I find really hard to believe, but in preparation for our conversation today, I remembered the paper that I wrote as part of the qualification, which was called The Courage to Soar and the Confidence to Shine. And I revisited it and realized just how much actually that's what I do. I still do that. So for me, if not more so now, creating that safe environment in which people can enjoy the power of conversation to heal relationships seems to me more important than ever. And I think research, in particularly research into psychological safety, that the Imago approach helps create that kind of safe environment in which good teams can become great teams and really truly be in connection with each other. So I would think that primarily is the way in which I use Imago. As you know, I never talk about we're going to do Imago. I don't talk about, validation, empathy, yes, but what I do talk about is helping people to reflect what they've heard, helping them to appreciate what they've heard, helping them to validate in that way and to show empathy. And I am very passionate about helping people to manage their own energies and to help others manage theirs. So the physical, the mental, a little bit different from in the Imago work, but integrated the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spirit energy. And I look to help people to really become more conscious of these energies in their relationship and in the team, and to work together, paying attention, listening through these different energies. So appreciation and becoming more conscious of impact, which I remember being something that we spoke about, and helping people to create an environment in which they can be open and honest and be in connection. So I've woven it in to the work I do.
Yeah.
And as it's a way of communicating, a way of staying in connection. I think it's incredibly powerful. And actually coming back to what I wrote and realizing how ingrained really Imago has become part of the leadership consultant and coach I am. I'm very proud of that and very grateful to you.
Great. So really integrated it into your work with leadership, and tweaked the language a little to be appropriate for the places where you're using it. But the fundamentals have become part of the way you work and who you are. I'm hearing in that way.
Absolutely, very, very much so. I think there was such a good fit for me because already I was thinking and behaving in some of the ways of Imago, but what the Imago training offered was a way of synthesizing this approach, and then what I've done with it is integrated it more deeply, more consciously into my work.
It's lovely to hear about what you're doing, Annie. Anything more you'd like to add?
I would encourage people to find out more about the training, but also those people who are on the training to think about how they can make it their own in whatever their community is, because I do think language really matters. And that was something I was already very finely tuned to. And of course, with reflecting, meeting people where they're at and being able to connect with them in a way that makes sense to them as well is so, so important. And I was mentioning to you, I've recently done another training in action learning, which complements Imago massively. But what I find myself when I'm using the questioning techniques of action learning, I refer, when I'm introducing the way in which we're going to be working, as this is a way of developing your leadership capability. The same with Imago. You know, this is a way of communicating with each other that will help you work together more effectively, to be in connection. And it's the same with the action learning. If I talk about leadership capability, about creating an environment in which people feel seen, heard, and understood, which I think is what Imago helps people to do,
Yeah.
and helps them to solve problems and to heal relationships. So I think what I've done is evolved the passion I have for helping leaders to be conscious leaders. Imago has helped me to see that we need to be conscious in relationship. And I think I would encourage everybody who's participating in the program and or future programs, or looking to find out more about Imago, that it is so important at this time and helps have conversations which otherwise might feel impossible to have. But Imago makes it possible to have some of those what might seem initially difficult conversations, almost breakdown conversations, that it helps people to really hear each other, to understand each other, and to appreciate each other. And I think more than ever, in the work I'm doing with leaders at the moment about collaborative leadership, I'm helping people to have inclusive dialogue. So that's one of the ways I talk about what I do, and is drawing upon Imago, and diversity of thought. So helping people to hear and draw on that richness of difference, on the diversity of thought, and all of that inside of an environment in which people feel safe. And again, I think Imago massively helps with that, and helps create that kind of culture, a culture of care.
So really integrating what you already kind of knew and were doing, and new stuff that you're learning, bringing it all together with Imago and fitting it in a way that really makes sense and that enriches your work in helping people to have difficult conversations, safe conversations. Yeah. Well, lovely to hear that all about what you're doing, Annie. Really appreciate you
Yeah.
doing this. And
Thank you.
I'd love to have a copy of that paper. I'd love to have an archive of papers like that that people have written.
I would love you to share it. And it reminds me just how, well, one, how special my experience was, but just how much Imago has to offer everybody. And it feels to me now more than ever, the world needs Imago, and needs the how do we stay in connection? How do we build relationships? How do we have conversations that really matter? So I wish everybody well, and you too. And I thank you as ever from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you. That sounds like a good note to finish on. The world needs this now. Yeah.
I think so.
Thank you.